Hello and welcome to the British Accent Podcast. I'm Emily.
And I'm Nick. Thanks for joining us again. Today we're getting into something really practical, setting English goals that actually fit into your daily life. Not the goals that sound good on paper, but the ones that work in real time, in real life.
Exactly. Because I think a lot of learners fall into this trap of thinking their goals need to be big or impressive. Like I'll study 2 hours a day. Or I'll finish this grammar book in a week.
Right, and while those goals might look motivating at first, they often crash into reality. You've got work, family, dishes, your phone buzzing every 2 minutes, and suddenly, English feels like another burden instead of something you enjoy.
So today's conversation is all about making goals that fit your life, not fight against it. Let's say you've only got 15 minutes while waiting for your tea to brew. That's still a moment for English. It could be listening to a podcast, writing a few sentences, or even reviewing some vocab.
Yeah, and it counts. That's the big shift, recognizing that progress doesn't only come from long, formal study sessions. It comes from consistency, not perfection.
One of my favorite small goals is just reading one English sentence out loud every morning. It takes maybe 20 seconds, but it starts the day with that language mindset, and that tiny action builds over time.
For me, it's setting my phone to English and leaving it that way. I don't study it, but I interact with English naturally, every time I check the weather or set an alarm. It's invisible practice, but it adds up.
It's all about micro goals. Things that weave into your daily routine, without needing a massive time slot. And when your goals are small, you're more likely to stick with them. You don't skip them because they're not overwhelming.
And here's the thing, when you achieve those small goals, even just once or twice a day, you start to feel successful. That positive momentum gives you the confidence to keep going.
Yes. And that emotional side matters. If your English learning feels like constant failure because you're not meeting unrealistic goals, you're less likely to keep showing up. But if it feels achievable, kind, and consistent, you actually want to come back to it.
So maybe today's question for our listeners is, what's one tiny English habit you can build into your normal day? Something you already do, that you can slightly shift into an English version. So maybe today's question for our listeners is, what's one tiny English habit you can build into your normal day? Something you already do, that you can slightly shift into an English version.
Like if you scroll Instagram every evening, maybe follow a few English-speaking accounts. If you make a to-do list, try writing it in English. Or if you talk to yourself while cooking, do it in English. Simple swaps.
The goal isn't to force yourself into a strict plan. The goal is to embed English into the life you already have.
Because real progress doesn't come from changing your life for English. It comes from letting English join your life.
And when English becomes part of your daily rhythm, even in the smallest ways, it starts to feel less like a task and more like a habit. Like brushing your teeth or putting on your shoes. It's just part of the day.
And we don't judge ourselves for brushing our teeth for 2 minutes instead of 10. But with English, we often expect ourselves to do an hour of study, or it doesn't count. That mindset needs to change.
It really does. 1 minute of listening does count. Repeating a single phrase while you're folding laundry does count. It might not look impressive, but it builds up. Quietly. Day by day.
And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is let go of the idea that real learning must look a certain way. Learning doesn't have to be structured and silent and alone with a book. It can be alive, messy, part of your movement through the world.
And honestly, for many of us, that's the only way it can work. We're not students in classrooms anymore. We're parents, employees, caregivers, people with busy lives. And those lives deserve goals that don't add more pressure, they offer relief and joy.
Yes. So if your English goal today is just listening to this podcast while walking the dog, amazing. If it's reading 3 headlines in English news, great. If it's saying, good morning, to yourself in the mirror, beautiful. That's real effort. That's real progress.
Because English doesn't need to feel big to be meaningful. It just needs to be yours. A part of your day, not a disruption of it. A small flame you keep alive, no matter how busy or chaotic things get.
And honestly, the pressure to do something big can stop people from doing anything at all. You look at your schedule and think, I don't have an hour, so what's the point? But the point is, it's not about the hour. It's about what you can do within the life you already live.
Exactly. We wait for the perfect moment to study English, and that moment rarely comes. But what does come? The 5 minutes waiting for your tea to boil. The walk to pick up your child. The train ride to work. That's real time, and it's already yours.
And when you use it for English, even gently, even imperfectly, it adds up. That's how consistency works. It's not about force. It's about rhythm. You're not sprinting. You're learning to dance with it.
I like that, learning to dance with it. Because you're not fighting against time anymore. You're moving with it. Your goals fit into your life, not on top of it like a weight.
And honestly, that's more sustainable. That's what lasts. That's what keeps English alive in your world without it turning into a burden.
So if you're someone who's been feeling like your English goals are too small, or not impressive enough, remember this, they fit your real life. And that makes them powerful. You're still growing. You're still showing up. And that matters more than perfection ever will.
And it helps to stop comparing your journey to someone else's. Just because someone has 3 hours a day for language study doesn't mean you're falling behind if you only have 10 minutes. That 10 minutes is yours, it's real, and it's something to be proud of.
Yeah, and honestly, even those 3-hour learners hit walls sometimes. It's not just about time. It's about how you use it. 10 mindful minutes can be more effective than hours of distracted study. Especially if you're fully present in it.
Absolutely. And presence is something we don't talk about enough in language learning. Like, are you listening to that podcast with intention? Are you repeating phrases while you wash dishes and really letting them land? That's what builds memory. That's what creates confidence.
And it also builds trust in yourself. Because when you consistently show up in those small ways, you start believing, hey, I can do this. That belief fuels more action. It becomes a self-feeding loop in the best possible way.
Right. So if today all you did was read one short paragraph or repeat one sentence, don't discount that. It's not a small thing. It's momentum. And momentum is how people become fluent. Quietly, steadily, bit by bit.
There's this idea that your English needs to look like a full-time job to be valid, but that's just not true. English is something you live, not something you clock in and out of. If you're thinking in English while doing the laundry or talking to yourself as you tidy up, that counts.
Yeah, language isn't meant to live in textbooks. It's meant to live with you. In your space. Among your responsibilities. Alongside your people. You don't need to separate your life from English, you need to blend it.
That blending is what turns language learning into a lifestyle. And that's when it becomes natural, not forced. When English is just part of your day, like brushing your teeth or making your morning coffee.
And when that happens, you start noticing that you're understanding more, speaking more freely, and even enjoying it. Not because you studied for 3 hours straight, but because you made space for English within your life, not instead of your life.
That's the shift, isn't it? When English goes from being this big separate task to just being in the room with you. Like background music that's always playing, and eventually you start humming along without realizing.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't always have to be this dramatic effort. Sometimes it's just picking up a phrase from a show, repeating something under your breath while folding clothes, or mentally describing what you're doing in English. That's real practice too.
And I think the more we normalize that kind of learning, the more people will actually stick with it. Because it doesn't feel heavy. It doesn't feel like another obligation on top of everything else going on.
It's like, we need to stop thinking of English as something that lives only in notebooks or apps. It can live in your walk to the bus stop, in your bathroom mirror when you're brushing your teeth, or even while scrolling your phone if you're reading captions in English.
Totally. And those small bits of engagement add up, often in ways we don't even notice at first. Like, one day you realize you didn't have to translate something in your head, you just understood it.
That moment is golden, isn't it? You don't always see the progress happening, but then it shows up when you least expect it. And it's often because you've been doing exactly those small, daily things that feel invisible at the time.
So maybe that's the takeaway: trust the invisible work. The subtle repetition. The whispered sentences. The quiet consistency. That's where fluency grows.
It's where confidence grows too. Because suddenly, you're not just learning English, you're living with it.
Yeah, and when you're living with it, it becomes less intimidating. You're not performing English, you're just existing in it. That makes mistakes feel less like failures and more like part of a conversation.
Exactly. And I think when you're not always in test mode, your brain relaxes a bit. It starts to play with the language more, trying new phrases, making little jokes in your head, exploring without so much pressure.
Which is honestly how we learned our first language, isn't it? Through messing around, hearing bits and pieces, mimicking things, not from sitting down and saying, "Now I shall study fluency."
Right? I mean, no toddler thinks, "Oops, I used the wrong tense." They just keep going. And eventually it sticks. Adults can do that too, we just have to let ourselves loosen up a little.
Yeah, let go of that perfectionism. It's okay if your sentence isn't perfect. It's okay if you forget a word. If you're using English in your real life, even just talking to yourself, that's already a huge win.
And the cool part is, once you start to notice how English fits naturally into your daily routine, it opens the door to more. More exposure, more comfort, more spontaneous little wins.
Like overhearing something in English and realizing you understood it. Or being able to respond faster in a chat because you're used to thinking in English now.
Or even just finding joy in something small, like understanding a meme or song lyric without having to look it up. Those moments matter more than we give them credit for.
They really do. I think a lot of people overlook those little wins because they are waiting for a big milestone, like passing a test or having a full conversation without pausing. But those tiny moments add up.
And honestly, they are the foundation. No one just wakes up fluent one day. It's all the small stuff layered together, the things you do when no one's watching, like repeating a phrase while washing the dishes or whispering back lines from a film.
Yeah, those are the hidden hours of fluency, right? The effort you put in when it doesn't look like effort. When you're living your life but also soaking up language bit by bit.
That's such a nice way to put it, hidden hours of fluency. And they're often the most honest hours too. Because you're not doing it to impress anyone. You're just doing it because you care, even in chaos.
And let's be real, life's rarely tidy. But language doesn't need a clean desk or a quiet room. It just needs to be invited in. Even if it's just 5 minutes while waiting for the kettle to boil.
Exactly. Or repeating the same phrase while walking to the bus. Or listening to a podcast while folding laundry. None of it feels like studying, but it is progress.
It's progress that fits into your life, not the other way around. You don't need to build a whole new version of yourself to become fluent. You just need to weave English into who you already are.
And that's where it becomes sustainable. Because it's not about forcing yourself to do something unnatural, it's about making English part of your rhythm. A language you live with, not a subject you fight with.
Totally. And over time, you realize, those boring or quiet moments, they were never empty. They were building something. They were your practice space, your real classroom.
That's such a comforting reminder, to know that even the tiniest effort, even the messiest day, can still carry growth. So if you're listening and thinking, I didn't do enough today, maybe you did more than you realized. Maybe your English is quietly growing in the background of your real, imperfect life.
Exactly. Keep showing up in the ways that feel real for you. It doesn't have to be flashy. It just has to be honest. And that's more than enough.
Thanks for spending time with us on the British Accent Podcast. Wherever you are, whatever you're juggling, your English matters, and so do you.
We'll talk again soon. Until then, take care of yourself, and keep going, your way.